I'm happy if I record it for the sake of you. You can watch bits back, or I don't mind not recording it. All right. I'll try and work out to put it on YouTube later or another day. Too much. Okay. Surds. Ratio. Ratio or surds first? No, we'll work for it in order. We'll work for it in the order that you said, that way. Right, okay. If we aim for 20 or 30 minutes on a topic, but you say I'd rather we did less topics thoroughly than rushed it and we didn't get anything. So, right, okay. So surds, a few quick things. Surds, if it's a surds question, then it will involve a square root. It will have a square root. It's not a cube root, but a square root. It will have square roots in it. And we'll go through the questions, the type of questions that were in the PPE. You can see the exam question down the bottom, but I'm hoping I'll explain to you how to do it, and then you can try the exam question hopefully in 4 or 5 minutes. So if I show you how to do this one here, before I show you, let's get you thinking a bit about it. What do you think it's asking you to do when it's got a squared sign, a power of 2 or squared sign? So talk to the person next to you. What do you think the question wants you to do? What do you think it wants you to do? Were you confused by it? No idea what on earth it said.
Yeah. I think I'm you not just generate this variable. Oh, yeah.
Right. Luca, any ideas? What do you think it's asking you to do?
Yeah, square the numbers in the bracket.
Square which numbers?
2 root 3.
Square everything. Yeah, so what it means is, what some of you didn't square everything, but it really means this. It means 2 root 3 times another 2 root 3. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it. When you've got a big bracket and you're not quite sure what to do, just means multiply it by itself. So maybe that's the easy way to think about it. The question is, how do we do that? So I'm going to highlight the whole numbers in one colour and the surds in another colour. I'm going to suggest to you, because there's not loads of you got this right, I'm going to suggest you multiply the whole numbers first. So you work out 2 times 2, which is very easy. But what you don't try and do is try and rush it all and do it in your head. So do the whole numbers first. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Do the whole numbers first. If I gave you a biscuit every time I made a mistake with this computer, you'd have a lot of biscuits. We have got a lot of biscuits actually, so we have got a lot of biscuits today. If you've come in late, we have got 9 packets of biscuits. That's the biggest, that's the smallest. There's a lot of packs of biscuits in here. They're not all for today though. I'm hoping we have some left for some Thursdays. I'm hoping. But if times are hard, we have got 9. If we get a snowstorm and we're stranded, we'll last for at least a day. We've got a day's worth of biscuits. Right, okay, so Saran, what's that? Now, root 3 times root 3. You haven't got a calculator, we're on the non-calculator. So root 3 times itself, or root 3 times root 3? 3. If you didn't know it was 3, then hopefully you do root 3 times root 3 is root 9, and then you think, oh, hang on a minute, root 9 is 3. So 4 times 3, Javi, is, right, 12 would have been the right answer. It was only worth 1 mark, so you've got to get that answer right. Okay, can you try for yourself that one? The third question is much harder. If the third question was on the paper, I'd give you 2 marks for that, I think, because the third one is more difficult. So try question 2. We'll try question 3. So I'm trying to throw in a harder question, which might be in your real exam. Might make it more difficult, but I have put the answer down. I hope I've got it right. This one is harder than what you were actually given. So I've tried to include in the booklet some possibilities that they'll make it harder. They might make it easier, but they might not make this topic harder. Max, you okay with what's going on?
Yes.
Question 2, hopefully you've written down something like this eventually. 3 times 3 times root 2 times root 2. Something like that. Hopefully. Someone got an answer form for me? Yeah, so I would put down 9 times 2, 18 for your mark. Question 3 is a lot harder though. So let's, should we maybe do the exam question first? Maybe?
No.
I think the exam question is easier than question 3. But the exam question, something you didn't get right. It was part B that you found more difficult, so we'll spend most time on that. Part 3, what does it mean with a cube? What would it mean with a cube? You've got it times by itself 3 times. So once you've got that, then you can gradually work on it. But it is slightly harder than. I'm going to put it down with all the 3s at the beginning. Various ways. I have given you the answer. It's a hard question. You do sometimes get the answer. You've got to get there, though. Got to get there. None, because if it was on a calculator, actually it could be either, because when you've got the answer with a calculator, it would take you straight to the answer. But if you've got the answer given, having the calculator is not really going to help you, because you need to do the working out.
I'm going to be honest, though, I typed it on the calculator and it said syntax error.
Oh. I hope I haven't made a mistake then.
3.
I did it twice and I could get that. It was Friday afternoon, so I might have made an error. What's 3 times 3 times 3?
27.
Well, we've seen nowhere near 432. Anyway, that's that bit. Right, what's root 8 times root 8 just once?
64.
And what's root 64? That bit is 8. What's 27 times 8?
216. Yeah, because if you do 25 times 8, that's 200. Then
Okay.
add 16 onto that.
Yeah, fine. Except you were right, I was wrong. Okay, now root 8, if it had said root 8 there, then it would have said this, 216 root 8. But root 8 can be simplified further down. How do you break down root 8? Root 8 is, now this bit is the bit you might have forgotten. Root 8, if you can think of a square number that multiplies by something, that one needs to be a square number. 4 times 2, I'm running out of space, sorry, equals, go over this side, root 4 times root 2. What's root 4? 2. So what we're saying is root 8 can be simplified. Instead of root 8, you can write 2 root 2. What's 216 times 2? And then you've got your root 2 only at the end. You agree that's quite a lot harder. It's quite a lot harder, but I thought we'd try throwing some harder ones, because if you can get your thinking right towards the harder one, if the exam board make the style of questions for this topic slightly harder, they'll probably make something else easier that we don't know what they're going to make harder. Just do the exam one, and then we're on to the hard one. That was the actual question you had, exam question 18. What is 2 root 5 squared? What is 2 root 5 squared? And then we're on to the slightly harder bit. 2 root 5 squared. Give you another 30 seconds. Hopefully you've written down 2 root 5 times 2 root 5. Now you've got to do it. What is 2 root 5 times 2 root 5? Should be a whole number between 10 and 30. In fact, exactly halfway between 10 and 30. It should be 20. Right, okay, let's move on to the more common question, which looks like this. And also, this is normally worth 3 marks. So it's not only is it more common, it's more important in that respect that it's worth more marks. Right, so it might say rationalize the denominator, but it might just say, like, question, I think, 3 or 4 on the next page, write it in this format where it's got some numbers at the top. Good morning, come in. Right,
Better late than never.
It's all right, everyone's welcome. There's no late marks in a college, just as well. Right, okay, so for this one, the objective is to get rid of when it says rationalize, it means we do not want any square roots on the bottom. So your final answer, what we want to end up with for a final answer is something like just maybe a whole number, or maybe a fraction like 6 plus root 3 over 5 or something. What we do not want is any square roots on the bottom. That's all. So it will look, so it might just be a number, but it might be a fraction. But if it is a fraction, then all of your surds will be on the top, none on the bottom. You don't know what the answer is going to look like. I'm not sure. It could be any of these. Right, let's try. So the first step. So step 1 for 1 mark. Your first mark tick is to multiply the top and the bottom by the same thing. And the top and the bottom always get multiplied by something like this. But you do need to multiply it by 2 again. And you do need to multiply it by root 3 again, top and bottom. But the one difference is that rather than a minus sign, which is in the bracket, Harry, you need to swap the sign for a plus. So that's the one thing there. So the sign change. The one important thing is that you change the sign when you multiply. The reason that you need to do that is because what you are going to use, you're going to use dots or difference of 2 squares, and that's going to get rid of the, because you're going to be effectively squaring things, you're going to get rid of the root 3. What's root 3 squared? 3. That's why we're doing this. We want the root 3 to disappear, and we want, when we've done our FOIL or grid method, we want just a normal 3. So that's why we're multiplying by a minus and then by a plus. We must have the 2 different signs here. So you need to also, for your second mark, you need to be good at FOIL or grid method, whichever you use. Let's see, can you multiply this? Can you do 2 minus root 3 multiplied by 2 plus root 3? Whoops. And some of you I know like to write out FOIL. So let's give it a go. What is 2 plus root 3 multiplied by 2 minus root 3? The final answer is almost always a number, just a whole number like 2 or 7. A lot of things should cancel out. You should have no square roots left at all. So your final answer should just be one number. That's what we're heading for. One number, for example, 5, or could be negative, but I think this is a positive number between 1 and 5. If you've done this correctly, you should get a whole number between 1 and 5. Julia, how we do? You done? So if it helps you, then you could use, write on some arrows, multiply lines like that. I don't know. Does anyone do grid method? Draw out a grid. Yeah. Don't mind how you do it. So you go and draw out a grid, Aidan. Yeah. How long do you need for a FOIL question? Another 30 seconds, or are we done? Can't allow you that. Oh, Charlene and Samuel, we did a little vote on topic. So people have, the reason we're doing Surds, which is at the back of the booklet, is because nearly everyone wanted to do a bit of practice on Surds. And we've also agreed to do iteration, vectors. Are there any that you two particularly want to do? And I could change those numbers out of those 8 topics. I've got all those 8 ready in booklets, but I wasn't quite sure which would be the most popular. So at the moment, we're going to do Surds first, then we're going to do vectors, then we're going to do iteration, then we're going to do ratio. Are you happy with those 4 to start with? If that's all we get done, at least we're doing the 4 most popular, and we could address the others. I'm just revising in class for 10 to 15 minutes now and again, so we remember it if we don't need it desperately. That's our plan. And we also have loads of biscuits to keep it. First biscuit break is in 18 minutes, so We haven't had one yet, no.
I'm not thinking.
That is very early to biscuit. Well, 11 o'clock. That's about right. It's a bit late for biscuit. It's probably 10. To me at home. Okay, so foil. Hopefully then, you've done it by now. So hopefully you've got 2 times 2, the 2 first numbers giving you 4. The outers, plus 2 times root 3 is 2 root 3. What should happen is this one and the next one should cancel out if I've done this correctly. Should cancel out. The inners, 2 plus 2 times minus root 3 is, here we go, look, minus 2 root 3. Those should always cancel out when you add them. One's positive, one's negative. That's why we need a minus and a plus sign. So these two will cancel. Finally, the outers is minus root 3 times plus root 3. Be careful with this one. So a minus times a plus is a minus. That will always be a minus. Always in this topic. You're always going to have a minus times a plus, so you'll always get a minus for your last. What's root 3 times root 3? 3. And you can put root 9 and you need to realise it's 3. So those cancel out. So what you're always going to get is that number minus that number, always. You will always get the first number, the first, which is nearly always positive, take away the last 3. You should get a 1. If you've got 1, that's your second tick. Sorry?
What was the first?
First tick was for doing that. For multiplying by the right thing and for writing it down. So, sorry. First tick was for multiplying by 2 root 3, but you changed the sign. It was a minus, now make it a plus. 1 mark for that. 1 mark for doing FOIL correctly. Now let's put the question together. So what I'm saying is when I expand this, when I multiply the 2 bottom numbers together, I've just got a 1. After all that working out, it will just come down to a whole number between 1 and 10. It could be more than 10. It's not often, it isn't. Often it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down there. But the top number is just 1 times 2 plus root 3, which is just 2 plus root 3. If it asks you, well, that actually would do for 4 marks. It doesn't say to simplify it. If it said to write it as simply as possible, what's the easiest way to write 2 plus root 3 all divided by 1? Need. What's the easiest possible way to write that answer? If it said write it as simply as possible, what would I have to do? Yeah. Now, sometimes the question would say the answer is going to be a plus root 3. It might give you a clue what it was going to look like, but you've still got to do all the working out to make it look like something plus root 3. 3 marks. That's what you didn't do quite as well. Could you try question 2? Could you try doing exactly the same thing for 3 marks for 1 plus 1 over 5 minus root 7? First mark is, can you multiply by the right thing? So let's write this down. I'm going to put 2 multiply signs down. Come on in, let's see. 1 mark. That's going to be a bonus mark for some of you, an extra mark. Can you write down the right multiplier? Okay, can you remember? What's the number you need to multiply? It's going to be like that, but how is it different? That's a minus already. Did a 5, did a root 7. Good. Well done. That check broken. First mark then, you've got to get this first mark or it isn't worth carrying on because nothing's going to work out. If you've got that mark there, it's exactly the same, but you must make sure if that's a minus, that's a plus. We need 2 opposite signs. 1 mark for that. Did you get that first mark? If not, can you go back and change it? If you've really got that wrong, it's not worth expanding brackets. Might need calculator there, or are you just checking it? So slightly more difficult. I've made the numbers bigger. Most of you do FOIL, so you should be expecting something to happen here with the O and the I. What should happen for the O and the I? What should happen? should cancel. Could almost cancel them in advance. You know, if you're short of time, if you had a minute left to do this whole question, personally, I would just do F and L, and for these two, I'd just write cancel. I wouldn't even do it. Just do the first and the last. They're going to cancel, whatever they are. You don't even need to do it really, because when you do it, it's going to be 5 times root 7 minus 5 root 7. But whatever you write there is going to cancel anyway. If you're short of time, I wouldn't even write it. Personally, I will do it though. I will do it when I do answers. Give you 1 more minute, or are you done? I'm done. First, I would write these down there. You need 5 times 5 is 25. Lasts minus root 7, sorry, times plus root 7. It's always a minus. Always a minus. For me, it's going to be minus 7. So what's 25 take away 7?
18.
Right, so your final answer to all of that is going to be 18. So when you mark for that. So when you do your fraction, on the bottom, you're going to get 18. 18 on the bottom of the fraction. What's on the top? 3 marks. Are you happy that you're able to get more than you got? A lot of you, to be honest, got 0 for this. How do you get 1 mark here? Everyone should be able to get 1. So what's the one thing you've got to remember to get a mark with these 7? Just, you've got to make sure one's negative, one's positive. If you can get that, you've got a mark. If you're good at FOIL, you're going to get the next mark, because all you've got to do is to multiply one bracket together correctly, and you've got the second mark. Obviously, if you find FOIL difficult, you might have to settle for 1 mark and move on. All right, now, you want to try I've got 2 more questions. I've got the exam question to do, which is just like the one that we've done, or I've made question 3 slightly harder than it actually was in the exam. Let's do the exam first. Let's see if you can boost your score in the exam from 0 or 1, which most of you got, to 2 or 3. I think a lot of you are going to get 3 for this. If you are ready, you could try the hard one. The hard one is question 3. Right, me. Which topic do you, out of the 4, which are surds, then vectors? Are you happy to do vectors next? You're going. There's only vectors 4, then try to do its ratio and ratio. Then we'll do vectors 4. Right. We're doing iteration and ratio. Why don't I do ratio next then? Because that's in the same problem. I think everyone needs. I got a ratio, especially the alpha one. Didn't go well. Did not go well. Today, I haven't seen them. I think most people are coming in next week. I'm away next week, so this week I don't think. Why don't you send her a message on channel homework?
I didn't get a response.
She might be away this week though, so she.
Actually, you might know the answer. If I've got 2 revision sessions at class, what should I do?
Go to the one that I would go to the one that you feel you need the most. The one that will be most helpful. Are they literally clashing, literally exactly the same time?
Yeah, it's the exact same time.
So you're going to have to miss. I mean, you could go to both teachers like you normally do, arrive a few minutes early and just ask what the teachers are doing, saying you've got a clash, and if one's doing something that you need and one isn't, then you could do it that way.
Well, yeah, one I've already got intervention for, and we're doing that topic, so I think I'm going to.
It's a difficult choice. Right. How much more time? But some of you you almost finished your part. Should we go over that one first? Right, exam question then. Katie, what's the first mark for? Right, if you have written down this, if you have tried to multiply top and bottom by 4 plus root 11, you've got a mark. Well done, because a lot of people didn't get that mark. If you don't get that mark, then you're not going to be able to get the FOIL mark. So your FOIL mark would be doing 4 minus root 11 times 4 plus root 11. So you don't need to write down FOIL if you don't want to, but your first will be 4 times 4 is 16. Your lasts will be minus 11 times plus root 11. It's always minus. It's going to be 11. The 2 in the middle are going to cancel, but I'm going to do them anyway. You've got 4 root 11 for the outers and minus 4 root 11 for the inners. They should cancel. As long as you've got your first mark, you will find they'll cancel. So 16 minus 11, it's 5 on the bottom. And on the top, it's just 4 plus root 11. 1 times 4 plus root 11. So that was the mark. How many marks for that? Did you get 2 or 3 or 1? But the main thing is, or 4? 3. Is it?
I'm taking 3.
No, I might have written that down wrong. That must be out of 3. Out of 2. Shocking. Shocking. Right, okay. Slightly more difficult, maybe, is that one there. That's too big. Right, that one there is more difficult because you've got a slightly more difficult numerator. It's going to take you a bit more effort. You're going to have to do FOIL twice. We say it might be worth an extra mark, be a bit more tricky. But at least this one, I've given you the answer, assuming I've got it right. So obviously you can't just say, the answer is 2 minus root 5. How many marks for that? None. You're not going to get a mark for repeating the answer I've given you. It's all about the working out. So this one could be Kieran with a calculator, because the calculator is not really going to help you much because you've got the answer already. So for this one, what do we multiply by, Katie?
Oh, right. What one?
This one.
1 plus.
I'll give you one more chance. It's not 1 plus anything.
Oh, that one. 3
Yes.
minus
Yes.
5.
Very good. 1 mark. 1 mark for that. Come on then. But you're going to need to do FOIL twice because you've got a bracket on the bottom and one on the top. So it's double FOIL, I'm afraid. Double FOIL. The good news is, though, double FOIL, then it's biscuits. Then it's biscuits. So we're going to have a vote on the first biscuits. We've got a choice of, choice of 4. I'm going to put the choice up for you to be thinking of. So I don't want to have to make a rash biscuit decision. Rash biscuit decisions are not always. We don't want a rash biscuit decision. Yeah, we've got dark as well. Don't mind either. I like your thinking, Kieran. We got to start somewhere though. We've got to think where to start. Got to think. I know. So it's tough. I know it is tough. There's 2 packets of everything apart from these, but this is a big packet. They're all good. I've tried them all extensively. They're all good. I recommend them all. They're all pretty. Yeah, these are good. These are good. If it helps, this is, we bought a packet of these for ourselves. So I bought a packet of these for ourselves on personal use. Yeah, and I wouldn't want you to be poisoned by it. So I've tested them quite extensively, and I've been fine over the weekend. So just to let you know, if there's an issue with them, I haven't come across it yet. It's biscuits minus 4 minutes and counting. We've got a choice then. Do we go for the? I mean, we could be flexible. We could have some of you require some of the other. You know, there's 2 packets of everything. Except for the best. They're a big packet though. There's enough for 1 each of those, I think. I think you get 25 of these in a packet, or I mean, I should have counted. Oh well, per biscuit, 25 grams. 25 grams per biscuit, 500 grams. How many biscuits? Not have an issue. We've got 20 biscuits. I'm going to be all right. 7, 10, 12. Oh no! There's 19 of us and me. Perfect. Perfect. Right, okay. How are we doing? I'll give you can be my time teacher. How much more time do you need for question for this one? Yeah, you need another 10 more seconds. It'd be great if we could finish it, go through it. How much more time do you need? Right, do you know what to do? So, do you understand that first, Mark? What you got multiplied? So, what you've now got to do is you've got to multiply the top that by that. So you need to do 1 minus root 5 multiplied by 3 minus root 5. You need to try and expand that and expand that because on the bottom we've got that times that. Either any method that you want, give your best to expand that. And if you can get one expansion right, that should be worth a mark, I hope, and then 3 marks for the whole thing, I reckon. Right, what should we go for then? First biscuit break. Oh, Kieran, you're pushing it. It's a reward. You don't have, I've only got biscuits. I'm sorry if you want fruit or nuts. I just bring over. Oh. For the athletes among us, I didn't think. Last minute. How are you doing? Do you need a bit more time? No. However, it's a tricky topic actually. Probably, I'd say it's the grade 7 or grade 8 topic. What question was it? The question 19 or something. It's quite a hard question, so. Last 30 seconds. I'm thinking these. Are you thinking these? Yeah, we're thinking these. We might have these and something else, but I think we have to start with these ones to start with. They are good. Pardon? Oh, Kieran.
No, don't run it for a runner. They still have it. I just don't like, you know, so I'm
Right, let's go over then. Let's go over it and then we get a biscuit. Okay, so here we go then. So most of you probably did the denominator first, you're more used to doing it. 3 times 3 is 9. Outers is 3 times minus root 5. Inners 3 times root 5. Surprise, surprise. What happens to those two? They cancel again. And the last, root 5 times minus root 5 is always minus. This time it's 5. So we've got 9 minus 5 gives us 4. 4 for the denominator. The denominator is 4. Numerator, F-O-I-L. The first, 1 times 3 is 3. The outers, be careful this time, outers 1 times minus root 5. Inners, 3 times minus root 5. They are not cancelling this time. Why don't they cancel this time? They're both negative, and look, you've got a 3 and a 1, and they need to be the same numbers and a positive and a negative. So, and the last is again minus root 5 times root 5. Add that lot up. We've got 3 and minus, we've got 3 minus 5 is minus 2. Actually, I got that wrong.
Yes,
I made a mistake. That should be a minus 2. I got that wrong, I think. Minus 2? You make it minus 2? No. The middles is minus 4 root 5. Right, I think I've made a mistake here because I should have, I made a mistake there. What did I do wrong? Oh no, hang on, that's plus. No, I didn't. 3 plus 5 is 8.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't make a mistake. I just made a little mistake there, not in my answer. Start that again.
Oh, restart.
Right, okay. Hopefully 8 minus 4 root 5. So, for the numerator I make it 8 minus 4 root 5. If you got that, that's the second mark. Or your second mark if you got a 4. If you got either of those right, top or bottom, I think that's mark 2. Now, because the top two both divide by 4, that means it will cancel down to give you 2 minus root 5, because you can do 8 divided by 4 is 2, and minus 4 divided by 4 is minus 1 or minus. It does work out to be 2 minus root 5. That's quite hard. Did you get 1 mark or 2 or maybe even all 3? Well done if you did. Let's do a biscuit and then have a little break for a minute while we eat biscuit. Have a biscuit. Anyone, would you rather have a different one? Or is it
Dark
chocolate?
Dark chocolate digestion.
I'm sorry if you don't like biscuits. I mean,
Let's not finish.
look, I don't think you can say that. Not so we're going to push it on. Sorry. It's quite substantial. I know. Next topic. I'm going to do ratio next. The same booklet. Right. I'll get it up at the right page.
It's the paper for it.
Ratio. Just above it. Oh, there's 2 ratio sections. Right, me, you measure in ratio. A bit of ratio in this booklet. What about the line? There's also the alphabet, I think, as well. I missed off one topic off the bottom, I'm afraid, which you might prefer, which is simultaneous equations
Oh, yeah.
with the x squared one in. This one. X squared plus y squared equals 10 sort of question. Would any of you actually like to do simultaneous equations more than the others? You know, say if we get a high vote for that, we might change what we're doing. 9, 2, 3, 4. Nothing 7, 8, 19. Oh, that's a high number again. Right, Nick, do you need that more than ratio? Or do you need both? Not vectors, so if we do Surds first, then iteration, or simultaneous equations, iteration second, simultaneous equations third, and then vectors after you've gone. I thought of this and ratio. That if we can fit in 4, we'll do ratio 4, and then we'll do vectors 5. Okay. Right, I'll bring some more biscuits around in a bit. We've got custard creams or we've got chocolate digestives for the second round. We've got dark and light chocolate.
I'll take the dark chocolate.
Right, so let's leave the ratio for now then. What will we do next? Iteration. Right, iteration's in the second booklet. We now need a calculator though. I think we'll leave, well. Oh no, we must do question 4. Yeah, we've got a few starter questions. We've got to be getting question 4 right. I think I took question 4 as a personal insult that you didn't get it right. So, I mean, maybe I shouldn't. Question 4. Work out the speed of a train. We're going from Paris to Amsterdam, and we're going to do it in 3 hours, 24 minutes. So can we just do question 4 with a calculator? If you get it wrong, don't get any more biscuits. It's just simple as that. That one was in the exam, yeah.
I got it already.
Oh, I've got this one wrong because I.
It's in booklet 2. Booklet 2, first page. We're going to do the iteration, which is near the back of the book. So, Ram, what is the formula to link distance with speed with time? Everyone got that. Everyone knew that. Was that on the pink formula sheet? I don't know.
Yeah.
What did a lot of you get wrong?
I converted it to minutes. I converted the 3 hours 24 to minutes.
Should have got 1 mark for that.
I can't remember. I don't think I did it.
Everyone did this. Everyone got 433.5. But something went wrong. What went wrong? Can you remember what you did wrong? Not everyone got this wrong, but more than half of you just threw away 3 marks. What's wrong with this? This is what a lot of people wrote.
Fabricated was 100 minutes an hour.
A lot of you wrote that. Not everyone, but a lot of people. A lot of people. Right, that is the first bit is right, but it is not 0.24. So you've got to get the time right. How do we change 3 hours 24 minutes into the right time? It's not 3.24. Go on, Samantha. That's what I would do, yeah. You say it's a fraction. I would literally type in that. Or if you don't want to type it in as a fraction, do 24 divided by 60 on your calculator, which I think is 0.4. And then you type in 3.4. But you could just type it in as a fraction like that, and you won't have to worry about changing it. So either that or 3.4. Come on. And then you've got full marks. Right answer. 127.5. Thanks, Kieran. It's actually not that fast. About 190 miles an hour. It's not that fast. Yeah, I thought it would be a bit faster personally, but it's fast enough. It's faster than driving. You wouldn't have to stop with roundabouts or rest or anything, would you? But it's still not that fast. Anyway, right answer. 127.5. Happy with that?
Yeah.
We've got to get that right. We've got to be able to change our hours and minutes into hours. Happy that we can know how to change it, because if you can do that, you're going to get it right every time. Okay, let's move on. So, iteration we were doing, weren't we, next? Iteration is partway through this booklet. Okay. I don't know. I didn't put page numbers on, did I? It's question
Yeah,
3 from the back.
yeah, three for that.
Iteration. Right. Okay. Can I get you to read through question 1? It wasn't the exam question, but it was along the same lines. So can you have a read through, please? Just have a read through question 1. I have a suspicion you're not going to like it, but I don't know. We'll see. You don't like it already. It's only worth 1 mark, so it's not quite as hard as it looks. Not quite as hard as it looks. Just going to add in a bit more space. Right, let's just do a little bit of work on iteration. So can anyone tell me, what is iteration? What on earth is going on? And how do we know this is an iteration question? Because it doesn't always use the word iteration in the question. So what is it? How do we know this question is to do with iteration, if you looked at it? Not the normal question. The normal question is more like question number 5 or 6. The question you're used to is probably question 4. If you look at question 4 on the next page, you'd be used to that. But what about question 1, 2, and 3? Why? How do we know it's iteration? And any ideas? How do we know it might be or probably is iteration? Maybe a starting number. Not always though. Not always will that mean it's iteration. It probably will be, but not always. Not always. It could be like that volume question you had where you had a swimming pool that was empty. You could have said when time is 0, the swimming pool is full and it gets emptied at a rate of blah, 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 blah for 30 minutes. What percentage of the swimming pool is emptied after 30 minutes? So it might not be. Iteration, the clue for iteration is down here. This bit, you've got V with a something plus 1, T or N plus 1. This bit and this bit means it's iteration. So if you weren't sure why, if you didn't even know that question was iteration, if you're honest, that part there means it's iteration. And I'll try and explain to you what that means in a bit more detail. Does iteration confuse you a bit? Yes. Full stop. All right. So what it really means is this then. What it really means is there's a starting V0 is basically is 2000. It's written there. That is the starting volume. Is starting volume. The starting volume might not. It could be 0, couldn't it? And you're filling it up. It could be full up and you're emptying it. This time you're full up and we're emptying it. V0 is the starting volume. How many hours? Is this question in hours or minutes? Hours. So V1 is volume after how much time? After 1 hour. Does that make sense? V1 is just a code. It just means volume after 1 hour. So in this question, V stands for volume, and the little number 1 just stands for how much volume you've got after an hour. Does that make a little bit more sense now? What it means. So what code number, Max, would I write down for the volume after 10 hours? V10. Right. So V10 just means volume after 10 hours. Does that coding make sense now? You sure?
Yeah.
But that still doesn't mean much because you need to know well, how much water is going to be there in 2 hours, 10 hours. I've got no idea. There's a formula. There would have to be some sort of a formula to help you. Formula. We could call it an iteration formula, or it could be called a recursive formula. Iteration and recursion basically are the same thing, just different nouns or adjectives to describe what's going on. Now we need a little bit of understanding about what K is. It's basically a multiplier. It's a number you multiply the volume by to get the next volume. Say if we were filling up a container and each minute or whatever time period we're using, the volume doubles. So say it went from 1 litre to 2 litres to 4 litres to 8 litres. If it's doubling, Javi, what would my multiplier be? If I'm going from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 each time? Yeah, my multiplier would be 2, and I'd be doubling it. It's unlikely for filling something up that you double it, but it's possible, but it is unlikely. It depends on the shape of the container and how many taps you go into. Now, somewhere in the question, it must give you a clue as to what's happening with this swimming pool. But can you have a little look through? Does it say the word doubling or halving or something else? Read it again. You're looking for a clue as to what the multiplier is. Sometimes it tells you, but in this, you've got to look for the words. What does it say about the swimming pool either filling up or being emptied? Aidan, what does it mention about the rate of this filling up or being emptied? Good. So that is the important point. You can highlight that 2% less water at the end of every hour. So we're talking it's happening every hour, but it's 2% less. So actually, I'm pouring out the water in my swimming pool, and after every hour, 2% of it's gone. So it's 2% less, 2% less. So gradually, it's emptying, gradually. What number means 2% less? And it's not -2, it needs to be a multiplier. You can't just subtract 2. 2% less, 2% less, I want a multiplier. Amelia, multiplier? Very nearly. That is 2%, 0.02. It does mean that, yes. So I'm going to give you half marks for that. 2% is 0.02. What about 2% less, though? 2% less than what I have now. Let's say I start with 100. Yeah, I could multiply by 0.02 and get 2 and subtract it. But what about doing it in one go? Why is it 0.98 and not 1.02? Right, if I'm subtracting, my multiplier is 0.98. So this formula, what it really means is this. The volume in an hour's time is 2% less, 0.98, of the volume I've got now. So this is the current volume, however many hours we've got. Say we've had 5, say the volume is, say we've had five hours gone. In my next hour, it's going to be obviously 6 hours gone. Whatever I've got now, I'm going to take 2% off to work out what I'm going to have in an hour's time. That's the sort of maths that we're doing here. But this question is simply asking us for 0.98 because it's only asking for the multiplier. That's all it wanted. Normally it would ask more than that though. Normally it would say how much we're going to have in 3 hours or something. So we'll do that as well. We'll expand question 1 and we'll pretend it asked us for how much water we're going to have. I'm not got much space there, so I'm going to have to rub a little bit of this out, so I've got a bit of room. You got some blank pages at the back if you've run out of space that you can use on the next page, or on a topic that we're not going to do, probably if we're going to run out of time. Here's my formula then. VT plus 1 equals, so if you can copy this down, 0.98 times VT. Neve, are you happy why that is 0.98? That's worth a mark. So let's do this slowly with a calculator. We won't worry about doing it quick. We're going to do it slow so you get the hang of it. Somewhere in the question, it should tell us, Julia, what the volume is when we start. The volume when time is 0. Can you see that anywhere in the question? How many litres or gallons of water are in this tank? 2,000. So it does tell us that right there, which is very helpful. V0 is 2000. So here's my first formula. V1, what does V1 mean, Javi? V with a 1 next to it.
After an hour.
Good, but I don't know what that is yet because I've got to do 0.98 times V0. So V0 is in the question, as Julia told us. So to get the volume after 1 hour, you would need to do 0.98 multiplied by the volume that you start with, which it says in the question is 2000. So on your calculator, this would be with a calculator, what is 0.98 times 2000? That will be V1. 1,960. Everyone agreeing with that?
Yeah.
If you haven't got a calculator, you're going to have to trust Kieran, which is always dangerous, but we're going to go for it. 1 mark for V1. Let me give you 1 mark for V1. Now, the question might say, probably won't say stop there, probably say find V2. So V2, here's our formula. V2 equals 0.98 times V1. Same formula, but now I know what V1 is, I can get V2 because I've found this one. So I need a bit more space because I'm going to run out of space. Get rid of all this and underneath. So to get V2, I need to do 0.98. What was V1, Ines? Whatever you use for that one, you need to put it in here and use 0.98. So basically, you use one answer to help you get the next answer. That's why it's like a cycle. You use one to get the next, and you use that one to get the next, and it's like a cycle, which the maths word for where you cycle round with an answer is called iteration. You go round and round in like a spiral circle. So what is 0. Someone else? What is 0.98 times 1960? Go on, Harry.
1920.8.
1920.8. Tick for that. That should be your second mark. Could you try and get V3 yourself? What would V3 be? Could you do V3 yourself? And then I will show you a way to do that slightly faster. Slightly faster. Slightly faster. What is V3? If you can do V3, you are doing iteration. This is one way of doing it.
1882.
Come on, Kieran.
1882.384.
Yeah, okay, let's have point 4. Do you agree with Kieran? It's 1882 point something. Tick. That is iteration. You use one answer to get the next using a formula that you're given somewhere in the question. Normally in the exam question, it would tell you that. Normally you'd have the 0.98 already worked out for you, which makes it a little bit quicker. Now, you could do this a different way, get the same answer. Let's get rid of this. You get rid of a bit here. But on your calculator, there is a way to speed this up, especially where the formula is difficult. That didn't take very long. You can always do it this way if you want to. You can always use your starting value, put it in the formula, get the first answer, then use that, get the second, get the third. You can always do that. Or in your calculator, you type in the starting value, just type in 2000 into your calculator and press equals. It puts the starting value in, and then we type in the formula. Now, the formula that we type into the calculator is always the right-hand side bit. Don't type in the left-hand bit, the right-hand side bit. You just type in, if you now type in 0.98 times this bit here, whatever the capital letter is, whether it's a V or an X, you type in A and S for that. Basically, what happens is it uses your starting value instead of the answer. So it basically, when you press equals once, it does this. It does 0.98 times the answer you typed in at the beginning. And when you press equals once, you should get 1,960. Now, before you press it again, it explains what's going to happen. When you press it the second time, it's going to use your new answer, which is 1960. It's going to use it again. It's going to repeat it a second time. Press equals again, you should get 1920.8 because it's going to use the answer you've just got a second time. And when you press it a third time, it's going to use that answer in there. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Now, if it's the reason this is a good way of doing it in real life, you might want to say, well, when will it nearly empty? You know, I'm happy to leave it for 24 hours and go and get on with something else. When I come back in 24 hours, will it be empty? Will it be nearly empty? It's a little bit left. I'm happy with that. So keep pressing equals, maybe till you get down to 50 litres or something. How many times do you have to press it? I mean, you can press it quickly, can't you? It shouldn't take long to get down to 50, or will it? Take a long time. It'll take a long time. Okay, but either way, pressing the equal sign a few times is a lot quicker than keep writing out this and writing down this and this and this. So in real life, you would do it the equal sign way, but in an exam question, which is quicker, I don't know really, it depends on the formula and how tricky it is to type it in. You can do it either way. Here it is.
Also, can you also do it? Say you were like given the formula. So,
You are always given the formula.
so for this, we'll use this one as an example.
Yep.
If it tells you you need to work it out for 3 hours.
Yes.
You just type in 2000 times 0.98 power 3.
You could for this one, yeah. If it's just a multiplier, then yes. I wouldn't though. Right, should we try question 2? Did I give you the exam question as well? Okay. Question 2. Right, question 2 looks tricky. It looks tricky. There's a lot of words in it, isn't there? So I think maybe, is it the words that put you off, or is it not really knowing what to do? You've got... Make that a little bit bigger. I'm finding it hard to read that. A little bit bigger. Right, okay, so here we go. Question 2. Right, first thing, you've got a lot of words in question 2. So can I suggest you read it through and maybe highlight the important bits? It's got someone's name in it. Does it really matter? Does it matter we're in a balloon or an aeroplane or a helicopter or whatever? I don't think it matters. It's the numbers that are important. Maybe circle or highlight the numbers. Would it help to have some answers? So if you're struggling, here's the important thing. The most important thing in this question, Kian, which thing is the most important thing in an iteration question? The most important thing. Yeah, that is the most important thing there. It's very like the question we just had, apart from, rather than just the multiplier, it's got a plus 20. I don't know why, but we'd have to just go with it. The slightly more difficult formula. Hello. Back to you. And we're on booklet 2. Here you go. I say booklet 2. Where is booklet 2? Oh, is that spell? Oh, I left it there, didn't I? Right, Manuel, we're just doing consideration. We're on our second one. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm recording it, so you can catch up. We're on question 3. So, right, there's our formula. Yes.
What does it mean when it says where K is a constant?
K is a number. Like, remember last time it was 0.98 every time. It's a constant number. We're going to have to try and work that out though. Right, so we've got to try and work out the constant. How many marks for this? 4? I hope. Did it say?
It does all next page. 4.
4, right, so 4 marks with a calculator, but if it's a topic that you're finding difficult, it could take 6, 7, 8 minutes. It's not going to be a question you can do in a minute. So reading the question itself is going to take a minute, isn't it? Reading it all through. What would you like with a difficult question to try and make it a little bit easier?
Biscuit analogy.
Biscuit.
Analogy.
A biscuit. What sort of biscuit would you like? Kieran, you can choose. Dark or milk? We've got both. What? Both?
It's your choice. If you want dark, say I. If you want milk, say I.
Do I have the dark and the milk? Dark and the milk. We're multitasking.
Yeah.
You can't just in the exam though. You can't put your hand up in the exam or take down a biscuit. I'm stuck on the iteration. Try it. I think Madam might think it's trying to be funny. We'll start with you because you have maths on the back. You can have two.
No, I'm happy to have one.
You missed that one last round.
I'm not special.
Only for that start back.
I'm not special, so I shouldn't get all that anyway.
Well, there is one more of these. These ones are rather good. Right, where do we get to? How much need to run this? Does it really matter when the new president was up? No, it's that much of an issue. You've got a choice. It's a difficult decision. Here we go. Last but not least. Oh, that one's fallen out. I think it was trying to say something. Right, now, so hopefully, what we're saying is heights. Right, what's height 0? Can you find the starting height? Where is it a parachutist? No, it's a balloon trip. The balloon is at a height, and then they're going to do something to the balloon. I don't know what. Maybe they're going to. I don't know what they do. But anyway, the balloon's going to go down. Don't know how, but it just is. What's the starting height of the balloon?
1,000.
So that's h0. So if we were to use our formula, then we're going to say h1 equals k times h0 plus 20. I don't really get the plus 20 bit, but anyway, let's just I'm not worried about that. What time unit are we doing? 1 hour later, 1 second later, 1 minute later? What's happening? Reread it. What's our time changes? Minutes. So we've got 9:15. We've got 9:16. 1 minute later, the balloon is now, so 1 minute later, H1 is what? 1040. So H1 is 1040. Can we just check that's right? Do you agree? 1 minute later in the question, the balloon has dropped from 1200 down to 1040 meters. Happy with that? That information's right or not? Yeah. And we've got a formula. We've got to try and find that constant. Often the constant is given to you, but actually I say that in these questions, both questions, you've got to find the constant yourself. So let's try and put the numbers in. We've got H1. We think we've worked out, we know H0. So let's put this in then. H1, 1040 is a constant number times 1,200 plus 20. I think that's probably worth a mark. Hi, sir. So I need your skills of maths to be able to work out what is that constant number k. You know that 1040 with a calculator, you use it, equals k times 1200 plus 20. Can you unwind that question? What skill are you going to need to use to find k? Yeah, but what part of maths? Rearranging a formula. Somebody mentioned that earlier. So how do we rearrange a formula? What skill, what letters do we need to write down to remind us? Big maths. So when we're rearranging a formula, you know what big maths stand for. Do we start at the B and work down, or start at the S and work up when we rearrange it? Right. So when you rearrange, if you had forgotten that, or you just want to remind yourself, make sure you don't forget it. We're starting at the bottom and working up. Let's have a look. We want to find k. So here's our objective. We want to find k. So to find k, you have two things to focus on. Multiply by 1200 and plus 20. Which do you rearrange first? Do you rearrange the plus 20 to get rid of it? Or do you rearrange the times 1200? Because what we want we want to be left with k equals, I don't know, 0.5 or 1.8. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we need to. So which do we do first, Zoe? Do we deal with the plus 20? Look at big maths. Do we deal with the plus 20? Why? Right, we've got the add 20 to do first, and then we've got our times to do there. Okay, so first thing we need to do, what's the opposite then, Zoe, of add 20? Right, so your first bit of working out, I hope, is to take off 20 from both sides. Because we want to find k, and we need to gradually get rid of these two numbers, but we need to do it in order. We must deal with the plus 20 first before we deal with the multiply 200. So let's take away 20 from both sides. If you can do that successfully, it's probably your next tick. What should I write then? Well, you write it first. You write what you think I should write while I sample a biscuit. Coffee.
Tea or coffee?
Definitely coffee.
Tea, no sugar.
Emmanuel, thank you. Emmanuel, what should I write on the left? Yes. What should I write on the right? Having what have I got left once I've taken off the 20?
12,000.
Yeah, good. 12,000k, or k times 12,000. Very good. What do I do next to get rid of the 1,200, Katie? What's the opposite of times by? Good. You don't need to write down the working out. You just need to do it. On your calculator, then, what is k? I'm running out of space. Let's go up a little bit. For a second mark, probably. What is k? For another tip. What is k? How do I work it out? Samuel? How do I work out k? Oh, no. Tell me what it is, sorry. Oh, we know what to do. I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, 1,000.
0.85?
Yeah.
You agree with Samuel? Samuel makes it 0.85. Agree? Mark for that. So what we now know is, here is our formula. Here is our formula. Hn plus 1 equals k, which is 0.85, multiplied by hn plus 20. Put that in a colour or something. That is your formula now. You now know what k is. 0.85 plus 20. I don't know what that means. It looks like it descends by 15%, but then maybe a bit of upthrust of 20 each minute from, I don't know. I don't know what, I don't quite understand where the numbers come from, but that seems to be what's happening. Right, so work out the height of the balloon at a certain time, 9:18. Oh, right, okay. Well, we know H0. Neve, what time was H0 again? What time did we start the whole thing? So what time is H1 then? Harry, what time is H1? What time is the balloon at 1,040 meters? And the reason this is important is you need to work out how many times you have to go through this process. So what time do we need? Do we need 917? Because 917 would be H2. Is that what we need? We need 918, which is actually H3. So we know H0 and H1. You've got to work out H2 to help you get H3. And H3 is the answer that you want. Because in the question it said, what's the height of the balloon at 918? Can you see how we would work out that it's... So you're told at the beginning, 915, the height, and then 916. You need to find the 917 height, then the 918 height. Come on then, let's see if you can do it. Can you do that for 4 marks? If we're honest, I think a lot of you got 0 for this sort of question in the PPE. So if this is making some sense, this could be an extra 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 marks here. So. That's impressive.
You should have said yes, then something.
Could you then go on to the next question? Was the next question the PPE one? I might have missed it off, did I? Right, hopefully, do you get H2? I think we should be doing, to get H2, you start with H1 on our calculator. I'm going to type in 0.85 times H1, which is 1040, plus 20. I make it to be 904. So if you got 904, that is your third tick, I think. And then because it's 904, then I'm going to do 0.85 times my 904 plus 20, which I make that to be a decimal. I made it to be 788.4. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Take the nearest meter.
Yeah.
No, it says height of the balloon. Okay, so I'm going to go for 788.4. Didn't say to round it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bother. Did anyone else get 788.4? Or at least, you're getting the hang of how to do that. All right. Shall we just try the exam question? We've now done 2. The exam question was, it's on 2 more pages. It just says exam and then 17. I think it was question 17. So I just called it the exam 17. So can we try exam question 17? Very few of you got this. Let's see if you understand it well enough to try exam question 17. It's the one about sea level. It's actually quite like this one, isn't it? It's about height above sea level. This time it's talking about how many, you've got to be 1,000 above by the look of it. So it's how many thousands you are above by the look of it. N plus 1,000. So you rather than adding on 1 each time, you add on 1,000 millibars. So you're going from 0 to 1,000 to 2,000. So that's the thing that looks a bit confusing. Is it N plus 1,000? You're always adding on 1,000, sorry. So we're doing 1,001, 1,002. At sea level, it's 1013. I'm going to let you read it through. You've only seen it once before. Neve, what did you want to do next? The simultaneous ones. We could just maybe do one example of that, even if you don't get loads done. Hopefully, and I'm recording it, but hopefully it's. So exam question. If I give you 3 or 4 minutes to try it, and then we'll go through it, and we must try a. Yeah. Should we have it in a minute?
Yeah. I've already had.
Or why don't we just say if you want to go now, just go. Yeah. If you need a toilet break, why don't you just go now?
Yeah, why doesn't everyone go down that way? Yeah. I'm going to take my bag.
Probably what I should have done, Lee, was wait till 12, shouldn't I? People could hold on, but anyway, some people are desperate, I think. Never mind. Yeah. Come under sequences. So did you see sequences on the blue sheet? That would save us not having to size quadratic and geometric and Fibonacci sequences. So save a little bit of time. I think Mr. Mwamba told me it wasn't on there. Because he said proof, but I think I heard him mention sequences. I think he checked through it. You had a look through as well. Yeah. You use the toilet, and then we'll go through this. I know people might want another minute or two. Might be 2 minutes.
Have a power bank. 8%. And 1%. I was going to say 160.
Right, should we go over this one? Neve, you can do this. Maybe we should do just to go through one simultaneous equation. Getting the hang of this. So simultaneous equations is in this book. It's the last topic, isn't it? Should we try that one? Right, we'll crack on. Lots of people are missing, but I can go through this again just for Neve. We've got 10 minutes. So, the point of it is, Neve, we need to start by rearranging this one by adding on 3x to both sides, we want to get either y equals something, or if we want x equals something, is turn it into a simple equation. So this one is going to be 3x plus 13. You can do it for x if you want to, but x with this one, we have to move it around a bit. It would be something tricky like y minus 13 over 3. I'm not going to explain why, but you can do either or. One's going to be easy, one's going to be tricky. So we've rearranged it to get what y equals, and then the idea behind how to do it is instead of y there, because we know that y equals 3x plus 13, what we do need is we put that in there, and this method is called substitution. Kieran, we'll go through this again. I'm just doing this neat for only 10 minutes, so we're just doing this bit here. You get the concept. What we're trying to do is, the way to solve an equation, rather than having two letters in the equation, if we can swap in the same letter again. So I've got x squared, and I've got equals 25. But instead of writing plus y squared, I'm going to swap in this. And instead of y, I'm going to write 3x plus 13 squared. Does that make a bit of sense? Now, that is probably going to be your first mark. If you can correctly swap in the correct bit of algebra, just doing question 1 on the next topic just for a minute. So I can go through this a bit more slowly in a minute. Happy with that? Now this is down to your FOIL and algebra skills, because the question is, can you expand 3x plus 13 squared means 3x plus 13 times itself? Are you good at that, Lee? So if I told you what it was, would you be happy to just accept that? So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 13 times 3x plus another 13 times 3x is 78x. This isn't the easiest question because the numbers are quite high. Plus 169. But you could do that. So your second mark is that lot there. You would just replace it for that. So you write this. You'd write x squared. Instead of that bracket, you'd expand it using FOIL, and you'd write your 9x squared plus your 78x plus your 169 equals 20. Oops, equals 25. Happy with that? What we've got to try and do now is, hopefully you notice it's a quadratic equation. We've got x squared. We try and simplify it, and your next mark, probably your third mark, is for making it simple, but on the right, for a quadratic, you need to get it equals to 0. So we've got to take off the 25 from both sides and try and tidy it up a little bit. So if I've got x squared, I've scribbled over it, x squared plus 9x squared, I've got 10x squared. I didn't mean that to be in red. 10x squared. How are we doing? We've got 5 minutes. 10x squared. I've got 78, sorry, x. And I've got 169 minus 125 is 144 equals 0. Sorry, my writing's a bit all over the place. Let's make that a bit, let's add an extra page and move it up a little bit. So that is normally your third mark for getting to that, usually. But it involves substituting in and expanding correctly, and then putting it in, adding it up, but also doing a subtraction if you need to. So you must have a 0 there, or you can't solve it. Happy with that? Now, as it was on the calculator paper, you have a choice here. You can use the formula to help you solve this, that thing, but you don't need to. You could factorise. But I'm going to first of all see I've got even number, even number, even number. So I'm going to make the numbers lower by dividing everything by 2, the whole thing. So I'm going to go for 5x squared plus 39x plus 72. This is still a difficult question because the numbers are large. So you might be better off using the formula. Is the formula on the formula sheet? It is, isn't it? Hello, Abigail. So with the formula sheet, shall we just use the? Are you happy that we just use the formula? If you can correctly use the formula, even if you don't finish it, that's your 4th mark. It's either for factorising it or for using the formula. I mean, we could factorise it. It just depends how good your factorising is, how quickly you can look at the different factors of this. 5 times something, 5 threes, 1 times 24. Yes, I mean, I was lucky. The first thing I thought of worked. So, I mean, you could spend a bit of time factorising this, but as I was lucky, my first attempt worked. Because I just thought 324s, but that won't always work. You might not do it quite as quick as that. You might need quite a few steps and try stuff that doesn't actually work. This method, though, if it's on a calculator paper, you might be better to realise A is 5, B is 39, C is 72, and then you put it into the formula. Let me get rid of that so I can just do it a bit more quickly. So X is minus B, B was 39, minus 39 plus or minus the square root of B squared, 39 squared, minus 4 times A is 5 times C is 72, all over 2A, and A is 5, so all over 10. But yes, Kieran.
I think we made.
Oh, well, I made a mistake.
Shouldn't the 5 be on the 3? Or will that went for the 5x plus 24? Can it be the other side?
No, don't think so. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just do it this way. Neve, does that make sense? Most people that got marks for this did it that way because it was on a calculator paper. They thought, well, I've got the formula in front of me on the pink sheet. Why don't I just put it in there? They put it in correctly. Now, I can't do that very easily in my head. I need to do that on my calculator. Let me just check it. So I would suggest, if you're doing that on your calculator, use this button, use the fraction button, so you can actually type in on the top minus negative 39 with the fraction button, bracket for a minus 39 plus square root of 39 squared. I didn't mean that to happen. Minus subtract 4 times what's A, 5 times 72, close bracket down the bottom 10. I make it minus 3 for one of my answers. Yeah, that fits in with that, doesn't it? Minus 3. Yeah, good. That's promising. And then if I go back and change the other one, I think it should be minus 4.8. Let me just check. Subtract, delete, minus. Yeah, the other answer, minus 4.8. Now, that depends on you having it on a calculator paper. Then using the formula is probably quicker than trying to factorise it, in my opinion. Now, to get full marks, as well as getting the X answers, there is a matching Y answer as well. And I would maybe put these in a bracket so you group them together so you don't get mixed up which is which. So when X is minus 3, right back up here, you can find Y. When you know what X is, if X is minus 3, Y equals 3 times X, well, X is minus 3 plus 13. 3 times minus 3 is minus 9, plus the 13 takes me up to plus 4. So Y is 4. Bit more difficult when Y equals minus 4.8. I might have my calculator. Minus 4.8 times 3 is minus 14.4 plus 13 is minus 1.4. Yeah. Now, it wouldn't be quite as quick as that, but you get the concept of how you go for it. That's a 5 marker, sometimes 6, and it's probably one of the hardest questions that you can get. A quadratic simultaneous is just tricky. It's tricky anyway, but you've got lots of algebra all the way through, then you've got to solve a quadratic at the end, and it might be a tricky one. So it's tricky, it's hard. Right, thanks, Neve. I know you got that. Just rushing through that because Neve wanted to just touch on that one topic. I'm conscious that we didn't go over what we just did. Iteration question. Should we just answer that and then do another one of these? Thanks for coming, Neve. See you in a couple of weeks. Where was I? Back, couple. Back.
Wait, so when's our lunch break? At lunch?
We're going to stop at 1. We're just going to finish. I thought if we had a lunch break and came back, some people might enjoy the lunch so much they wouldn't come back. Me included. I might not come back. I might not. So I thought we start, we just do 3 hours and then finish.
3 hours is good.
Yeah. And I think we've had enough. I think 3 hours of maths is actually quite a lot, isn't it? So half a day, more than half a day. 3/5 of a day. You only normally get. Right, should we have a go at this one? This was the question that a lot of you, let's be honest, didn't know what to do. Yeah, hello. Right, okay, so let's go through this one then. Right, okay, so first mark. Okay, thank you. Yes, yes, you can. Hang on a sec. Near the end of the iteration. Just jump around if people want to get something. After recording, you can recording. Okay, so exam, just write down again, please. We'll try and get this finished, then we're going to do. Well, I'll let you choose what we do next, but I think we're going to do some simultaneous equations and then maybe some ratio. That'll probably be enough. It'll probably be time done. Right, so you're told this is your starting one. This is basically P0. Atmospheric pressure, P0 at sea level. Now, maybe you didn't realise at sea level it's going to be height 0, but so P0, 1013. So when we're doing P1000 equals 0.88 times P0 equals 0.88 times 1013. If you did this, if you had that, that's your first mark. Either you had it or you worked it out. So either you write down 0.88 times 1013, because that's your starting pressure, or you've done it in the calculator and you've written the answer, which I make, the mark scheme tells me is 891.44 millibars of pressure. So if you've had a go, if you somewhere have written down 891.44 if you tried it. That's the mark. So for some of you, that's 1 mark more than you got already. And then what you needed to do is, well, you've now got P1000. You need to get 3000. So you've got P1000 equals 891. Don't round it up. Keep it as 0.44. Then you need to use the formula to get P2000. And then you use the formula to get P3000. So you've got a mark for that, probably a mark for that, and then a mark for your final answer. So if you didn't quite finish this, then let me give you 30 seconds or a minute. Could you go from 891 to your next one by multiplying by the right multiplier with the calculator? And then the final answer, give you another 30 seconds, you have a calculator. So the second answer, hopefully you got 784.4672. Mark for that. And your final answer, depending upon whether you rounded things, whether you rounded that down to 784 or maybe rounded that down to 891, your final answer could be anything between 690 and 691. If you didn't do any rounding, I think you would have got this. 690.331136. Round to 3SF would give you 690. So if you did everything without any rounding and rounded perfectly at the end, you would have got 690. In the mark scheme, it would accept anything between 690 and 691. Do you feel you've got a better understanding of how you might tackle that question now? If you had one like question 1, 2, 3, or that one, where it's about population, it's not the standard one about x, n plus 1, and then a square root, you know, it's not happy with that style. I've put down a lot of the questions that have been coming up in the last few years in the booklet. So it does seem to be more on population and pressure and balloon height than they have the standard one. So it's good that we've been over these three. Right, the next plan was to go and do some simultaneous equations. So I did one just for Neve because she had to dash off. So we did that. We've done that one already. I can do that one again in a minute, but just for the sake of you who were here when we did that. Is it question 2 and then the exam question? Yeah. So question 2. Yes, Kieran.
Question 2, the exam question.
Ah,
That's fine.
you probably aren't. We don't want to do the same question twice.
That's fine. Get it wrong.
All right. So I don't know why that is. Maybe Mr. Mwamba found the exam question from an old question. I didn't notice that. I didn't check. I just assumed it was different. So we've only got 2 of these to do then. Well, let's make a start of it. The good news is it might mean we can get one more topic in. I haven't given you loads of practice. I can make some more up for you for when we come back though. Right, so solve this one. You would normally have at least a page to do this in, Katie. So do not worry. If I've only given you half a page, that's unrealistic. You'd have a whole page, page and a half. You can always ask for extra pages. So just a reminder. Now this one, you need to solve this by substituting. The only way to do it. It does say algebraically. Now, if you don't do it algebraically and just put the answer, I don't know whether I could give you any marks at all. Answers only award 0 marks. It didn't. Yeah, answers only award 0 marks. Right, so I think you have to use algebra to do this. Can't guess. It's very unlikely that you're going to guess because the answers, one of the answers is 2.147 blah 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 blah. You know, it's not an easy number like 3.5. You might guess at all. Right, so you've got to start by rearranging the simple equation and then you substitute it into the first one. You have 2 choices. You can either go x equals or you can go y equals. It doesn't matter, but one of them is going to be easier to manipulate and to work with. So let me let you think about this so you're thinking of it all yourself. Could you try and rearrange it to give you x equals something and try and rearrange it to give you y equals something? And then we're going to pick the easiest ones of that to use. So what would it be if it said x equal? What would it be if it was y equal? How do you rearrange it? To get x on its own? How do you rearrange to get y? Give it a go. Work with the person next to you. How do you do it? You need to be able to do that. That's the first step. But if you need a bit of practice with that, that'll be a good thing for you to practice. Let's do x equals first. If you want to do x equals, all you have to do is just take away 2y from both sides. So x equals 1 take away 2y. To get y equals is a bit more difficult. To get y equals, you take away x from both sides first to give you 2y equals 1 minus x, then divide by 2 to give you y equals 1 minus x over 2. Use either. Which one of those do you think is easiest to use? You're going to have to square it, and you're going to have to expand it. So which do you go for? Do you go for 1 minus 2y, or do you go for 1 minus x all divided by 2? Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But the people that got more marks did it that way. Someone did try it this way, but this is so much more difficult. Kind of expand with that in. So think about them both. Which is easiest to do? Well, that one's going to be easier to work with. So don't even work that one out. So that I'm going to rub that out. But both will work. Both will work. But one's going to be a lot easier than the other one. So let's go for that one. What you want to try and do is you want to have no fractions. You do not want any fractions in it. So get the one that gives you no fractions, please. If you haven't had a chance to do that, you want to just copy down mine, that's absolutely fine. What we're going to do is, this is not an easy question, this is harder than the one I did for me 10 minutes ago, while some of you weren't here, but that is going to go instead of x. So instead of writing 2x squared, we're going to use that instead of x. I'll tell you why we're going to do that in a minute. So we're going to still have our 2. We're going to still have our squared sign. We're going to still have minus y squared equals 17. So we're going to use the more complex equation, but we're going to swap the x and we're going to replace x by 1 minus 2y. So, whoops. If you can do that, that is normally your first mark for replacing x with that. The point of doing that is to solve an equation. We just need to have all the way through the equation just one letter, just y or just x, but just one letter. We don't want x and y in it. We can't do it. It's too complicated. So that's the whole point of this. So that would be usually your first mark. Can you guess what your second mark's for? Have a look at the question. What do you think we're going to do next? Expand the brackets. If you can expand the FOIL brackets or grid method bracket correctly, that's probably going to be your second mark. So you've now got to try and do 1 minus 2y squared. So we just multiply it by itself. Take care with that. If you can do that, that's your second mark. Let's give you a bit of FOIL time. FOIL or grid or however you want to do it. I'll let you do it yourself. That's your second mark. Right, Vivian, does the first step make sense about rearranging the simple equation and then putting it into there? That's the, you've always got to do that. Does that make sense? Are you happy with that? Did you get this one right the first time then? Maybe you can't remember. In the room. That was the actual question. Normally 5, it could have been 4. 4's a bit hard. It's normally 5 marks. It has been 6 or 7 at some point. Yeah, I think, yeah, I have seen some that have been 6. If you can do it, it's great if it's worth 7. If you can't, you don't really want to lose 7 marks. Why not?
I've never seen 7 marks.
Sometimes that cumulative frequency is worth 7. Occasionally, it was worth 6 in the paper. In A levels, they're worth more. A level questions can be worth 13. They're obviously longer though. You know, it takes quite a few steps to solve. It might take 15 minutes for one question. Yeah. Well, it might have part A, B, C, but effectively it's one question that you've got to work through stages. Okay. Right, your foil. I know some of you are really good at that, so you've already finished it. Your foil, it's really worth not rushing the foil, because if you mess the foil up, it's going to make you've got no chance of getting many marks down the rest of the question. So I probably would write it down. First, 1 times 1 is 1. Outers, 1 times negative 2 is minus 2y. Inners, 1 times minus 2y again is minus 2y. And finally, the last, minus 2y times minus 2y again is plus 4y squared. Careful with the last one. That's the hardest. 4y squared. If you've got that, you've got the second mark. 1 minus 2y plus 4y squared. So you got this. You've got 2, and then you've got to multiply by 2 all of this. So we've got in here 4y squared. What's minus 2y minus another 2y, Max?
0.
No, minus 4y.
Yeah. So we've got minus 4y in there, and then we've got a plus 1. You've got to double all of that. Double all of that, and then take away y squared is 17. So can you go ahead and double it, please? Can you go ahead and double it? Let's see if you can tidy it all up. What sort of equation, Abigail, are we going to get? What type of equation? Well, that's it. How do we solve a quadratic equation? How are we going to solve it? On the right-hand side, at the moment, it says equals 17. What are we going to need on the right-hand side to help us solve it? We must have 0, yeah. So you've got to expand it, tidy it up, and also get a 0 there. I'm looking for you. Can you get your third mark to get to the stage where you've got equals 0? I need this to be correct over here for you to get your third mark. So third mark's quite tricky. You've got to get your first and second mark obviously right, and then you've got to be good with your algebra. You've got to get your FOIL right. You've got to substitute it in. You've got to double it. You've got to take away y squared. You've got to take off 17. So I've got 8y squared minus 8y plus 2 minus y squared equals 17. Right, what's 8y squared minus y squared, Kieran? 8y squared minus y squared.
8y squared.
So I've got 8y squared there at the beginning. I've got another y squared there, and 1y squared if you want.
7y.
Yeah, I've got 7y squared. I've got minus 8y. And finally, I've got a plus 2, but I want to take away, I'm going to take away 17 while I'm doing it, because I'm running out of space. What should I write there, Charlene? What's my number? I want a 0 there. Very good. So how many steps it takes you to get your third mark? You're going to need to get 7y squared minus 8y minus 15 is 0. Let me double check that. If that is wrong, we're not going to get the answers right, obviously. Question 2. I think it looks right. Oh, hang on. Yeah. 7y squared minus 8y minus 15. That's your third mark, if you got as far as that. Whether or not you wrote the 0 down, but you have to get 7y squared minus 8y minus 15. Now, how are you going to solve it? There's 2 ways to solve that. You can do it by factorising. It will factorise. Or if it's on a calculator paper, you can use the formula which is written down on your pink sheet. Tricky to use the pink sheet formula without a calculator because the number's going to be quite large. You're going to have to do, well, I suppose it's not that large. You're going to have to do 8 squared minus 4 times 7 times 15. Yeah, I mean, 4 times 7 times 15 is not the easiest thing. You could do it, but it's not the easiest thing. So we'll do it both ways. So for your 4th and 5th marks, if you can start to solve this, 7y squared minus, was it 8y?
8y.
Minus 15. You can factorise it. So let's try factorise first. Now, if this could be, say, question 12 on the paper, it could just say factorise that. That could be the question. So that's a bit on the hard side as well. This is a tricky question, this, that Mr. Mime was chosen to do, because they're often a bit easier than this. But if you can do this one, if you can solve this, you'll solve anything. Yes. Do you want to factorise it?
Yeah, because like 7 minus 15, that's minus 105. But like 7, like 7.
Oh, you don't think it's it won't factorise?
No, it won't work. So there's minus 15 minus 15.
So would you try and factorise it? Yeah, that's frustrating. If it won't factorise, you've got to use the formula. If you did factorise it, your numbers need to add to minus 8 and multiply to 7 times minus 15. Minus 105. So are there any numbers that will do that? Multiply to 105 is not the easiest. Minus 1 times 105, minus 3 times 35, minus 5 times 21. That it? 15.
7.
Minus 7 times 15. That's it.
No, yes.
Think?
That'd be the one.
Yes.
No,
Are you sure, Charlie? It won't factorise?
No, it's minus 15 minus.
There, look.
I said it's minus 15 plus 7.
All right. So, apologies. All right. So usually, and in this case, it will factorise. But how good are you at working through the factors of 105? 7 and minus 15 did take a while. If it's on, the good thing about it being on the calculator paper is you can always give it a go with the formula. We'll do it both ways, and you choose what you're best at. It's going to take a while, otherwise it's not going to be easy, but it was question 21, either the last or, one of the last. It's going to be hard. So just in some ways to reassure you, this is really there for those to separate out the difference between students getting 7s, 8s, 8s and 9s. So if you get this right, there's no reason why you shouldn't get 90% plus on the paper, because I think this is the hardest question on the whole paper. So if you can get any marks at all on it, you've done well. Do not beat yourself up saying, oh, I can't even get 3 out of 5 at this. It's there for a reason. This is there. Really, this is there for those who are going for a 9. But let's be honest. Do not worry. But if you can get to that point, you can still get 3 marks for getting there, which I think some of you could do. Solving it in the time you have left might be tricky. Finding the factors, not that easy. You know it's -7 and 7 and 15, that one there. So you do this. You do 7y minus 7y plus 7, and I would do 7y again, minus 15. Have I got that right? Yeah. And then one of your 2 brackets will be able to cancel down because they'll be divisible by something. Yeah, the first bracket, look, both numbers divide by 7. Go ahead and do that. So you get y plus 1 in the first bracket and 7y minus 15 in the second bracket. If you can correctly factorise, that's your 4th mark out of 5. And the final mark is for getting the 2 answers. Let me get rid of this. I'm taking too much space there. I want to do it the other way as well. The other way of doing it, which might for some of you be quicker, is to look at the formula in your formula sheet and to realise A is 7, B is -8, C is -15. And we'll put those 3 numbers into the formula. That's going to get you your 4th mark as an alternative way. Just if you can put them into the formula, that's your 4th mark. Yes. A is always the number with the squared. B is always the number with the number on its own, and with the y, and C is always the number on its, always, it is. Even if I write it in a different order, A sticks with the y squared. Even if I write y squared at the end, A is always with the y squared wherever I write it. Here's the formula then. X, or in this case, y equals minus b, so minus 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared. B is -8, remember, not just 8, -8, square everything, minus 4 times A, which is 7, times C, which is -15, all over 2 times 7. If you've got that written down, that I think is your 4th mark. Either that or that. That's probably easier. If you have the formula in front of you, personally, I do that if I were you. You've got the formula written down. Your problem comes if it's on a non-calculated paper. I suppose you can still write that down, can't you? Even without a calculator. I know it's going to be hard to do it, but you can write it down for a 4th mark, even if you had that on a calculator. So I would recommend that for your 4th mark. Personally, I think that's easier. Up to you, though. Which is it easier? Is it easier to factorise it, or is it easier to just write it into the formula? I think that's all you needed to do. I don't think you had to actually get an answer. Let me check. I might be misinforming you. Correct use of formula. Is that correct use of formula? I think so. You might have written in the wrong minus sign somewhere. Probably. Did you write? You got minus signs here or here? You need two minus signs there. Otherwise, you're going to get a maths error. Yes. This time it was calculator. I think it was paper 3 or 2, which means you have a calculator, so you can get the answer. If you didn't have a calculator, the only way to get 5 out of 5 would really be to factorise it. This is getting a bit tricky with that calculator. You can do it, but it's not easy. Right, so with a calculator, you'd get 8 plus or minus. When you work out that, you get 64 plus, I don't know what. I'm going to just read you off the answer. 64 plus 420 is 484. All over 14. Now, doing it this way, if you type in to your calculator that, your 2 answers, one will be -1, the other answer is tricky. It's 15/7. It's a fraction. However, that is not enough for the 5 marks. You can get it over here as well. Y equals -1, or here, 7y must equal 15. So 1y equals 15/7. So you're going to get the same answers for y, but you also, for your 5th and final mark, you have to get the y answers and the x answers that match it. And remember what we said, didn't we say x was 1 minus 2y? Right from right at the beginning, when we started, we said x equals 1 minus 2y. You need to return to that at the beginning of the question and then say, well, okay, look, y is -1. So to get x, I do 1 take away 2 lots of what y is. So 1 take away 2 times -1 is 1 take away -2, which is 1 plus 2. So it's 3. So one answer is when y is -1, x is 3. The other answer is more tricky. X is 1 minus 2 times 15/7. Whoops, sorry. Which is 1 minus 30/7. 1 whole one would be 7/7. 7/7 take away 37 minus 23/7. That's tricky. You had a calculator, but I mean, without a calculator, it's a little bit tricky. Very hard, but remember, it is there really to judge between people that are going to get 8s and 9s, really, this question. So it's not expected many people are going to get 5 out of 5. If you can get 3, you've done really, really well. I mean, really, really, really well to get 3. 4 is amazing. 5 is top notch. Yeah, you really want that. If you can do that. Right, half an hour left. Time for one more biscuit? Yeah. And then last topic. Where are we starting in front?
You know what? I'm doing every other one.
You are living dangerously. I mean, that is key.
I wonder what would happen if I made a license like that.
Right, dark water. Run yourself.
Sorry, guys.
Dark water. I've got 4 left. This is on one. Chocolate. Dark, since it's dark. Last one. Worked out nicely. Right. We said, we've got a choice. We said vectors. Yeah, vectors to finish with. Tough one to finish with. Vectors are on the second booklet. Okay. We had 2 vectors questions on the paper, I think. On all the papers, did I put them both on? We had the vectors questions that we can all have a go at was where you could draw one. Is it near the beginning? I can't find it. That one there. Okay, I can put the other one on later, maybe, but column vectors. This was worth 3 marks, I think, for this question. There was a harder vector question, which I can put up in a second if we have time. However, not many people got 3 out of 3 for this. So obviously I confused you a little bit. So I've put down maybe 3 questions for us to do. 4 questions, 3 questions. That was the exam one, I think. Yeah. Question 10. I'll be honest, I think quite a lot of you got 0 for this question. It was question 10, so it wasn't supposed to be impossible. Right, okay, let's look at question 3 then. Off we go. Okay, so drawings. Let's do some drawings and let's write some vectors down. Okay, there is vector A. There is vector A. Let's just draw on. This is on the same booklet it's near the beginning of the booklet, of booklet 2. Have I got it? Near the beginning. Right, okay, so there's A. Let me draw something on for you. Let's draw that one on there. Right, can I ask you to tell me, discuss with the person next to you, what's the name of that vector there? What's the name of that one? Goes a long one up to Julia. I thought it was you saying it. Rosie. Rosie, why is it A? Yeah, if it's the same, if it goes a long one up to, doesn't matter where you start it on the page, a long one up to, the starting point doesn't matter. It's all about the distance and the direction being the same. Can we describe it in terms of a bracket? Do you know how to put a diagram into a bracket? What? Okay. The top number is how far across you go. The second number is up and down. Up. How up you go? Yeah. How up? That first one then is really how far right you go. Right and up. So describe it. I'm starting here. I'm going along and up. How far along do I go? Is it +1 or -1? If I'm going to the right, +1, and then I'm going up 2, so is it +2 or -2? Right, so you could be asked to describe it. Vectors, we'd either underline them or they'd be in bold, but when we're writing it, it's hard to do bold. We normally underline it. It's normally underlined. Now, if I ask you to draw 2A, 2A just means double the numbers. So instead of being 1 and 2, I'm going to double it. A bit like multiplying a bracket. 2A just means 2 lots of that. So it'll be 2 and 4. So 2A just means 2 lots of 1 and 2. You doubled both numbers. If I was drawing it, what would it look like? Pick somewhere to start where there's not loads of drawing already. Start there. So you go along 2 instead of along 1 and up 4 instead of up 2. Put on the dot. Join it up. What do you notice about the drawing? It shouldn't have a steeper gradient. It should be the same gradient. It should be parallel. Should be parallel. It should be parallel. And what's the difference then? It's longer. How much longer? It should be doubled. And the reason it's doubled is because cunningly we doubled the numbers, didn't we? If you double it, it should be twice as long because we doubled the distance across and up. So we're going to double the length of the diagonal as well. Happy with that? What do you call this vector? Rosie, what is that one? Why is it -8? Yeah, if you start at the top and go down and across, it's -8 because if you reverse it the other way, you're going 1 to the left instead of 1 to the right. Because you start at the top, you're going left and then down. You're going down 2. So what you've really done is you've just put a minus sign. You've just made it negative. If the arrow goes the opposite way, because you're going down and left rather than up and across, that's why it's -8. You get the idea of the picture though? Yeah. Now the actual question didn't say to do any of that. It said to draw, I think, if I can remember it right, it said draw on the grid anywhere -2A. Could you draw what you think -2A looks like? You need two things. You need the correct line and you need an arrow saying which way we're going. Are we going up or down? So can you try and draw minus 2a? What do you think minus 2a would look like? You got a mark, I believe, for drawing a straight line with an arrow on it. So if you know what you're doing, it's really quite quick.
You can draw a straight line there.
You need to use a ruler, Kieran. If you lose a mark for not drawing with a straight line, I'll come and find you in Welling. I'll come and find you. I'll come and find you. I'll come and find you. I'll bring my gang. It's not very scary. It's not very scary. Me and Mr. Al-Jamali, we're coming for you. Me and Mr. Plum. Yeah, watch out. Watch out, dude. Right, minus 2a, is that right? Yeah, it is. Come on, Kieran. What does it look like? What does minus 2a look like? It does look a bit like minus a, but it's minus 2a. Yeah, so I'm going to start it somewhere different. That's minus a, that's minus 2a. What other thing do I need to get the mark? I must have an arrow saying what direction it goes. It's got to be opposite from that one. So if that's a, minus 2a. I'm going to label it, but you wouldn't lose a mark. You forgot to label it, minus 2a. Abigail, does that make sense why that is minus 2 to 8? Hardly anybody got the mark for the drawing question. All right, is there another drawing question? Oh, okay. And then, can you also, please, can you write me down the vector for B as well? You put B in a bracket. What's B? Thanks, Zoe. Are you sure? Is Zoe right, Emmanuel? Is she right? Is B 1 minus 3? Zoe is right. Now, the actual question said, it said this. It said, work out what is A plus 2B. So what I want you to do is, A, we've already worked out. A is 1 and 2. B is, I want you to double B before you add it. B, Zoe was right with 1 minus 3. So before you add them, could you double these? If I were you, I would take your time, make sure you don't mess it up. Katie, if I double vector B, which is 1 to the right and 3 down, what would I get if I double it? Now add them up. Cabby, so you double, Katie's correctly doubled that one for us. If this was worth 2 marks, I'm going to give you a mark for doubling it correctly. And obviously you'd have to get the 2 vectors right. So maybe 1 mark for that or for that. And we would want 1 for the final answer. So if when we add them, we simply have you just add the 2 numbers up, add the top numbers up the bottom numbers.
3.
Yep.
Minus 4.
If you got 3 and minus 4, you got 3 at 3 then. You got 1 for the drawing and 2 for the numbers. Does that question make enough sense that we can just carry on and practice some of the others? All right, question 5. Sorry, I didn't do question 5. I did question 6 underneath. I'm guessing this has come from a vector booklet. Question 6, A, B is shown on the graph. It's along 3 up 2. Yeah, that looks right. Draw BC. This time you've got the vector, but you need to draw it. Come on then. Can you try and draw B to C? What that means is, rather than start a fresh page, you can also call vectors, rather than calling that vector A, you can just say the 2 points it joins. If it joins point A to point B, you can just call it, rather than the line A to B, like you would say, the line A to B is on you just draw an arrow above it. That's a vector in capitals. Just means it goes from A to B. That's all it means. So when we're going from B to C is 1 minus 4. We've got B marked on. Could you, from B, work out where C needs to be? And to get from B to C, what does minus 1 mean? Left or right? And what does 4 mean? Up or down? Can you start from B, go left or right, and then go up or down, and put a dot and join it up? Off you go. Draw the line on for a mark. 1 mark or 2? Just the 1. Manuel, is this making sense? So start at B, where it says B here. Start at B. That should start. And then you need to go -1. Is that left or right? I'm going to put a little dot there. And then 4. What does 4 mean? Up or down? Up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what do you do? Yeah, that's it. 1 mark for drawing.
I don't think you'll get that mark.
Yeah. There. Mark on point C, I suppose. B to C, A, B shown, draw. On the grid, draw BC. That is BC. What one thing might cost me a mark here? What haven't I done? Arrow. Which way did the arrow go? Right, I would suggest we've got to draw the arrow. My C doesn't look very good, sorry about that. Does that make sense, Hayden? Do you think you could draw that picture? We'll do the exam one in a minute. Right, now, question. Oh, on the grid, mark with a cross, point D. AD equals AB minus BC. Oh, this is confusing. This is confusing. AB minus BC. Oh, I need a bit more space, I think. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Right, I'll draw it on again. Was it -1, 4? There. Right, okay. Here is AB. Can we just draw on this one, please? There's AB, and there's BC. There's C there. BC. Now, if you join them together like this, Katie, if you join them like this, that line there, where you join them together, I've done AB to start with, then I've done BC. Can you have a think with the person next to you? What do you think the red line is? If I go along AB and then up BC and I join them up, what do you think the red line means? Have a little discussion. What do you think it means? What do you think it means?
No, AC.
Yeah, it could be at 18 or what else? Apart from A and C. What else? What else? What else? Samuel, any ideas? Oh, I don't, you might have from someone already. Have you? Were you thinking about what the red line means? Or not? I made that up.
A to C.
Not and some. Pardon?
ABC.
Nearly.
Nearly.
It means that line there is what you get if you do AB plus BC. So when you, thank you, when you combine them together like that, when you join them up, when you add them together, that's what you get when you do two different journeys. So I know it looks like, oh, it's a diagonal line, it's going to be shorter. Doesn't matter. When you go from here to here, when you start at A, when you go from here to here, you do AB. When you go from here to here, you do BC. But when you do one followed by the other one and add the journeys up, one journey plus another journey, you basically add vectors up. So adding vectors up just basically means vector 1. If you do vector 1 followed by vector 2, then what you do is you add them up. And sometimes in a question, you might have 3 to add up. You know, you might do vector A plus vector B plus vector C. You might be going around the edge of a rectangle or a trapezium or something. Does that make a little bit of sense? If you're adding up. So if I had another vector, if I had this, for example, if that had gone, and I had another vector there, another one up there or something, then to go from here to here, to go from this one to that one, would be vector 1, whatever it is, plus vector 2, plus vector 3. And I go from here up to here. You can have 3 of them. It doesn't have to just be 2. You can have 3. Now, the question that is posed in this is slightly different. I think if you turn it, is it on the next page? On the next page from the drawing, does it say AB minus BC?
AXB minus.
Right, so now you haven't drawn, so there's, let's get rid of this, if I can. I can. Now, you've got a drawing with that on it at the moment, so you've drawn AB. AB is drawn on, so that I'm going to do it in green. There's AB, you've drawn that on, but then someone's talking, you didn't draw minus BC, you went that way, you did plus BC. What we need is we've done A to B, we've done that. Right it. A to B is done, it's can't write. AB, yeah, done that. But now I'm on the B, I went up there, I did plus BC, which is going that way. What I really want to do is now I want to draw minus BC. What does minus BC look like? Have a think, talk to the person next to you. What does minus BC? That's plus BC going up there. You don't normally put the plus on it, but where would minus be? So I've got to here, I did plus BC. What does minus BC look like? We've mentioned it, but we called it minus A and not minus capital B, capital C. So what does a negative vector look like, Max?
It's like the other way.
The other way. So I've done AB, rather than going up here for BC, I'm going to do the opposite. What was the vector again? Was it -1 plus 4?
Yeah.
So I'm going to, instead of a -1, I'm going to do a +1. Instead of a +4, I'm going to do a -4. So I think I'm going to go down there. So I'm going to do AB along there. I'm going to do minus BC goes that way. Explain what minus BC is again, Max. Explain what it looks like.
It's kind of
Right, Kieran, listen. Go on, Max. Compare it to BC, which you already drew 5 minutes ago.
where it's just the opposite. So it's like right instead of left, and then down instead of up.
Why is it in a straight line?
It's parallel.
It's parallel. It's an exact copy, but rather than going up, it goes the opposite way. So instead of going along one up 4, it goes along one the other way, and down 4. It should be in a straight line. It should be the same length. All right, so there's minus BC. And what you need to draw, if you've got AB, instead of AB plus BC goes that way, AB minus BC goes down that way. So that would be your answer. You do AB, but then don't add BC, subtract it, you go down the other way. So your journey, you went AB first, AB was drawn, then you did minus BC, goes down there. So what you've done is you've gone up and down. That's what you've done. You've gone from here to here. So the answer to the question is the red line, because you've done AB minus BC. Yes, Abigail. So the position that you've marked is there. And that's going to be point D. Didn't it say A to D? AD was AB minus BC. So A to D, D is there because you've done boom boom. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah.
That's quite hard. If you haven't done it enough, I can see why some of you struggled a bit. I think for our final 7 or 8 minutes, is there one question to go? Is there the exam question left? Yeah, come on, let's try the exam question, which, to be honest, a lot of people got 0 for. So can you get 1 or 2 for the exam question? 1 mark for the drawing. I think the exam question is a bit like the previous one. It's a bit harder than question 1. It's a bit like question 2. It's tricky. It's tricky. I'll put the exam question up. I didn't say it was easy. I'll help you a bit with it. There's the exam question. Draw and label A minus B. Right, well, question A is like what we've just done. Can you draw A minus B? Can you draw it? Anywhere, you can draw it anywhere on the grid. Can you draw it? What does it mean? A minus B. If I give you a quick recap, what A plus B means, A plus B would be like this. Here's A plus B. There's A. There's B. Oh, this line here is A plus B. Roughly there. Oh, I meant that being red. So that would be A plus B. A plus B. Think of it as being A, then draw plus B. A, then plus B, and then join up. What's A minus B? What's A minus B? Can you get it a go? I don't think anybody drew it right. Maybe one person did, maybe two. So it's good to focus on this. We might do this again in 6 weeks. So let's drawing the line. A plus B means draw A first of all, which is that one. And then draw this one. A plus B. No, it starts anywhere. Yeah, but that's A plus B. A plus B would be my blue drawing. I know I've just switched with it, but you get the idea. So you draw A first, right? Draw A, then you draw B, and then you draw A plus B. A minus B means draw A, and then draw minus B. Minus. It's hard, basically, but because it was hard, no one got it. So that's why we're practicing this. Right, A minus B. A minus B. If you are completely baffled, you start by drawing A. There's A. So A minus B, yeah, I've drawn A. There's A. What do I have to draw for minus B? Let's do it in green. Minus B. What does minus B? I started here. I've gone to here. I now want plus B would be going up there. But what's minus B? If that's plus B looks to be along 2 up 3. So that will be plus B going up there. That's plus B. So what's minus B then? Otherwise, so if you could draw minus B like this, it's going to be the same as that. It's going to be 2 to the right and 3 down. So 2 to the right, 2 to the right, and 3 down there. Minus B. What's the one line you might need to draw on? A minus B. That might be enough for a mark. You have drawn A minus B, but it's best to draw it into a triangle. What line should I draw next, Charlene? Yeah. So if you draw that, poor diagram. A, then minus B. Think of it as being this, A followed by, then drawing minus B. There's A, there's minus B, join them up. Could you draw that for a mark with a ruler? You go yourself a couple of minutes. It's an extra mark, because nearly everyone, either you left it blank, or you don't know what you drew, you just basically put a random line on that piece of paper. Which has nothing to do with A or B, it's just a line. Because you get the thinking behind it now, what you needed to try. Right, and then the final question, again, was a bit of a tricky one. Here's some vectors. 3 marks for this, and normally this would be simple numbers, you don't get 1 or 2. It's worth 3 because it's got a bit of algebra in it, which could happen. It doesn't normally, but it could. So, right, I think we could all get 1 mark though. What is 2p? There's p. How do we work out 2 lots of p? If we know what p is, how do we get 2p? Times by 2. So could you, let's just double 2p. Let's just double p. Kieran, if that's p, can you double it for me? Yes, and the algebra? Correct. There's 2p. 3Q. Joanne, will you triple Q for me? What number will I have there? What's 3Q? If that's Q there, D and minus 2, what's 3Q? 3D, yes. And a number at the bottom? Yes. That, I think, was worth a mark. If you can correctly double and triple it, you could do that, couldn't you? You all know what 2P means, just means double it. You all know what 3Q means. Now, I've slightly covered that. Is that a plus or a minus? Minus. Blame me. Right, so can we work out then, what is 2P minus 3Q? Come on then, let's write it down. I think you can write this out for me. Take away. Come on then, can you work out the answer there, and there? What's a simple way of saying that? Yes, Kian, that is right. At the top, 6 minus 3D. And at the bottom, give you one more chance for the bottom number. Good correction. Why is it plus 6, Kian? Yeah, you've got minus makes a plus. Now, that was worth one mark, I think, for doing the basics. I think you could all do that. You could all double it, couldn't you? You could all triple it. They turned it into a sneaky question. Look, they've given you some algebra, but they've given you the answers over here. They've told you that the top one, 6C minus 3D is minus 9. And they've also told you that 2C plus 6 is 14. Have you go and try and find what C and D are with the help of your skills? We've only got a couple of minutes. So if 2C plus 6 is 14, what must C be? Because 2C plus 6 makes 14.
4.
Why 4?
4 times 2 is 8.
Done. Now you could do a bit of working out. 2C plus 6 is 14. You could take 6 on both sides and get 2C is 8 and then halve it. Yeah, you can do it in your head, doesn't matter. D's a bit more tricky because D's got some negatives in it. D you might need to write it down. Write D down, let's just finish it off. Come on. D, 6 minus 3D is minus 9. You see if you can solve it, and then you've got 3 out of 3. No, 4 out of 4.
So C or 4?
I wrote the wrong one down, sorry. I put the C answer in D instead. Apologies. I would have got the mark though, Aidan, because I had it right there. It was a typo, so I would have been all right. If you get the answer right and just put it in the wrong place, I'm still going to give you the marks. If you put no working out though, that's the risk. Minus 3D is minus 15.
I think, yeah.
Take 6 off both sides. Is that right? I think.
Yeah.
I would now change both signs, make them both positive. So 3D is 15.
Yeah.
4 marks for that. Do you get, more importantly though, whether you feel you've got 2 or 3 or 4, do you get the idea behind it? And you can have a go at the drawing, and you can have a go at the brackets because you now know what it means. Even if the question's easier or harder, you've got an idea to get something, which I think not many of you. I think the highest mark was 1 or 2, but a lot of you got a little bit happier.
Yeah.
Well done. You've done 3 hours of maths. Well, some of it has.
Yeah.
Well done. Have a lovely rest of the week.